Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back once again to the longest running show in the world about data. It's called DM Radio. Yours truly, Eric Kavanaugh, here with a legend in the industry, folks. We're going to be talking to Eric Herzog, or the Zoggin Store, as he's known, the Zogs. He has been around. He's been a CMO like 10 times. He's been CMO of the year like 20 times or something. It's crazy. And he's with infinidat these days, Infinidis and infinidat this and that. Infinidat is amazing stuff. They are enterprise storage, and our job today is to make storage sexy again. Yes, because you know what? There's a freaking ton of data out there, and it's amazing how much is out there and why people want to keep it. There are data centers cropping up all around Washington, D.C. There are micro data centers cropping up all around the world, quite frankly. People get it. Data is a thing. It's very important. And we're going to talk about Infinidat and this Infinite Box, the G4 family of next generation storage arrays. Eric Herzog, welcome to DM Radio. I love Infinity. I'm a big fan. My first company was Mobius Media and the Mobius strip. It goes on and on and on like that. So I'm all about Infinity. Tell us about Infinidat. What's going on? What are you guys doing?
Great. Well, infinidat is a high-end storage company. We're in the hundreds of millions, so our competitors are all in the billions. We've done very well, though. 28% of the Fortune 50 use our technology.
Wow.
And our focus is really on customers that need heavy cyber storage security, very high performance, high availability, and high reliability. So we guarantee the cyber aspect of our storage in writing. We guarantee our performance. We guarantee 100% availability. So to our customers, if you will, the global Fortune 1000, that's what they need. They want to be up 24 by 7 by 365. And we can do that with our storage solutions, both on the system side that we sell, which is the G4, for example, and our storage software, which comes on those systems to deliver real value, particularly in the cyber storage security area.
Yeah, and let's talk about cybersecurity. I'll tell you, I saw a gentleman present in Malaysia many years ago. He was one of the most entertaining presenters I've ever seen talk about security, and he was brilliant. He basically explained, he was an Indian gentleman, and he had a real thick accent. I'm going to try to do his imitation, but he would just tell these stories, and he said, so basically, what I'm trying to say is lunch is not a food. And his point was that lunch is an event at which you can have any number of kinds of food. And his point was that security is like that. Security is not one thing. It's not a technology. It's not a process. It is all these different things. It's tech, it's hardware, it's software, it's protocols, it's training, it's all these different things. But to deliver security at the storage layer, well, that's obviously where all the data is resting. So can you talk about what you've done to enable this kind of very secure, the kind of stuff that banks and insurance companies and healthcare providers want? That's intense stuff. What's under the covers that allows you to separate yourself from the pack from a storage perspective?
Well, first off, we think that most CISOs and CIOs leave cyber storage out of the equation.
Hmm.
They think about the servers, the applications, the edge, of course, the networks, but they don't think about the storage yet. As you pointed out, the bulk of enterprise data in these giant Fortune 1000s is sitting on their enterprise storage. And it is the mission critical and business critical data that runs their enterprises. In fact, in last year's Fortune magazine CEO survey, despite the bad economy and despite all the world conflicts, the number 2 concern was cybersecurity. So
Wow.
that's at the CEO level. So what we've done is integrated technology known as InfiniSafe. And that focuses on delivering helping protect the storage itself from an attack, what's called an immutable snapshot.
Hmm.
We also can encrypt data. And data can be encrypted. So when the data is put on the storage, we can encrypt it if they want it encrypted. We make sure we have management protection, because you could have a bad actor who could be an employee trying to steal. Remember, we deal with companies where there could be 50 different storage admins globally working on the storage. So we have all these management protocols. We encrypt the data. InfiniSafe allows us to create things like immutable snapshots, which means the data can't be erased, right? Can't be deleted. We then also guarantee the capability of recovering. The question isn't if you'll be attacked, it's when and how often. In
Yeah,
fact, the
right.
average enterprise has over 1,200 cyber attacks every single week of all sorts, not just on the storage, but on everything. So they're going to get in, and security analysts estimate that the cost to enterprises this year, between trying to prevent it, actually being held for ransom, like as you saw, UHG They had to file with the SEC $1.8 billion. And in Q4, you saw, of course, the filing from MGM Casinos in the $100 million range. So the security analysts estimate a $9.5 trillion bill for all the various aspects of cybersecurity in the enterprise. That's a
That's
huge
crazy.
number. So what we do is our InfiniSafe technology helps us do that. We even have the capability of what we call InfiniSafe cyber detection of scanning using AI and machine learning technology to scan the storage for possible malware or ransomware attacks. And you can then report that out to the CISO and the security teams, as well as to the storage guys, but also make sure the security guys are involved. And recently, with this G4 announcement that we did on May 22nd, we announced automated cyber protection, where we integrate with cybersecurity software packages such as IBM's QRadar and Microsoft Sentinel. These are packages that are bought at the data center level that look for threats to the servers, to the applications, to the edge. And when they report that threat with an API on the back end, we get notification too, and we can automatically take proactive action on the storage side to try to help reduce what the cyber analysts call the threat window. And we can do that with the latest G4. But InfiniSafe has been around for over 2 years now, and really is, when you talk to the analyst community, probably the most comprehensive cybersecurity on the storage side. And now with our ACP, automated cyber protection, trying to integrate storage into this more global cybersecurity strategy with these big cybersecurity software companies, and have them talk to us, and then we take action based on what they say is going on.
Yeah, let's talk about this immutable snapshot. So is that just a snapshot of the image basically? And this is just built into the storage architecture basically, that every so often you're going to do a snapshot
Right.
that's saved. And so when you find a problem, you just roll back to the time when the problem wasn't there. Is that the idea?
So what we do is you can set up what you want to snapshot. You can snapshot the entire storage array. You can snapshot part of it, a specific volume, specific applications. You can do snapshots. You can set up a schedule. We have one enterprise customer in the United States. They take an immutable snapshot every 15 minutes. Other
Wow.
people every 4 hours, every 6 hours. With ACP, when we get a threat coming in from Microsoft or Splunk or one of the other packages, we'll actually automatically take a snapshot right then and there,
Oh,
off
that's smart.
schedule. So
Right.
that again can help to reduce the threat window. Those immutable snapshots get set up by the admins, and then you set the schedule, and they just keep going on that schedule. And then basically, if you do have an attack, what you do is you need to scan potential candidates. In the storage world, it's referred to as having a known good copy, because malware ransomware is not like King Kong or Godzilla. Just happened to see that movie just the other day. Godzilla versus King Kong, with the Mega Godzilla, or the mechanistic one, the more recent one. And of course, what's Godzilla and King Kong doing? Constantly screaming and yelling. Okay, cyber attacks are all done surreptitiously. They are the ultimate Jason Bourne.
Hmm.
In the movies, he opens up a drawer. There's 27 passports, 27 different types of currency. He speaks Russian, he speaks German, he speaks English. Who knows what other language? And by the way, he was all on the down low, right? Until he had that accent in the first movie, all on the down low. No one knew what a super spy he was.
Right.
And that's exactly the way malware and ransomware is. So when you take an immutable snap, you could actually be infected. So you scan it. That's why we have our InfiniSafe cyber detection. You would scan a snap and make sure that when you recover, you're recovering a good snapshot. Because the last thing you want to do is clean it all up and then recover the data back, and you've got malware or ransomware on it, because it is done at the secret level, which is why our cyber detection is designed to scan for malware or ransomware attacks inside of that immutable snapshot.
Yeah, well, and I remember a few years ago now, a trend started where the bad guys were targeting backups. That was their whole plan, is instead of going after your production system, they would target your backups and just wait for you to load that bad data. So I'm guessing what you're doing with this scan is you have basically an index of bad code that has been discovered various places, and you just scan and look for that code. Is that about right?
We do that very similar to the way the virus guys work, but also with the AI and machine learning. We constantly learn. So
Mm-hmm.
we have the comparison of what's known, and then we learn, and we could see that Eric Kavanagh's malware is very similar to Eric Herzog's malware.
Right.
Okay, and you're the brand new malware, but we can see that with the AI and the machine learning. So the InfiniSafe cyber detection technology does that and allows you to scan the storage to one, it could be an early warning system. You could set up your snapshots and then scan it once a day. And if there's an issue, you could send through an API to one of the cybersecurity management packages, or if they have a security operations center, which, in the old days, enterprises all had network operating centers. Now the big, large enterprises actually have security operating centers because it's such a big deal. So
Yeah.
send a note from us to them. So that's one use case, is to scan proactively to inform other people in the security side of the business. Or you've had an attack and you need to get a known good copy to recover, and scanning potential candidates. So if you've got 10 snapshots, you scan to make sure that you've got a good snapshot. Otherwise, you're
Hmm.
just putting the malware ransomware right back again.
Yeah, I'm very encouraged that you're using AI and ML for this stuff because let's face it, AI and ML can scan through millions of lines of code and
Exactly.
find these patterns. And the bad guys are iterating every single day. And now we have all this Gen AI stuff, which, we talk about a security threat, being able to mimic someone's voice, being able to mimic someone's face. Fingerprints are probably not out too far outside of the realm of the possibility with these guys. So you need to have these kinds of packages, and I think it's very clever that you've baked that into your offering because let's face it, if it's not secure, then you have a problem. And like you say, you're going to get hacked. I mean, I remember when the Colonial Pipeline hack took place in May a couple years ago, and it was like, 3 months after Russia invaded Ukraine. I was like, yeah, that's state-sponsored people. Okay, because they only asked for like $5 million. I'm like, all right, they're sending a message. But it goes to show you they shut down gas distribution for gasoline on the entire eastern seaboard for like it was like 10 days or something, right? I mean, it's like you don't want that to happen to you, right?
Well, I hate to say it, it's like that Die Hard movie. Remember one of the Die Hard movies where they basically was a hacker who shut
Hmm.
down the whole government and made it sound like there was all this stuff going on,
Right.
and they were really trying to steal money. But the point is, yeah, we're at that point now. So you need to be ever vigilant. You need to make sure that you're looking for malware, ransomware all over the place. So storage is a place that's tended to be ignored. With our
Right.
safe technology, you don't need to ignore it anymore. CISOs and CIOs need to realize that all their data is going on the storage. And they're not only going to go after the backup, they're going after primary too. So they will go
Right.
after both, right? Because you get the backup or archive first, is what I would do. Not that I'm cyber mafia, but if I was, I would do that first. And then I would attack the primary, knowing that if they try to go to the backup is just as infected with my ransomware as I did on the primary storage. So it's usually a comprehensive attack going after both the backup data sets, archive data sets. Not that archive isn't really old data, but again, if you don't have any data, it's better to go back to the archive than back to nothing.
Right.
So archive and backup data is a target, and absolutely primary storage is a target. So they become very, very, very sophisticated what they do. And the fact that the security analyst community estimates is a $9.5 trillion bill, that's a
Wow.
lot. So that's buying the stuff to prevent it, like us. It is doing the actual prevention. There's a lot of training. I was spoke at a cybersecurity seminar. I've actually been invited. What's funny is I get invited. I'm the only storage person there,
Hmm.
so that's good. Shows we're unique. But so I was on a panel one time, and they were all talking about the various aspects. And in fact, one of the people who was on the panel was the head of cybersecurity for the National Football League. So he was
Wow.
talking about how hacks happen, and the previous year's Super Bowl, not one of the two teams that made it, but one of the other teams got hacked. And then they told them, and the NFL, as well as the team that got hacked, were all over it because they were worried it would infiltrate the common network and then end up obviously getting over to the TV side and causing real problems. They were able to thwart that. So it
Wow.
is all about everything from what we do with storage, what the software guys do in the data center, what you do on the network infrastructure, the edge, and the servers. But it's also what you do on training people. We had a phishing attack here at infinidat where someone mimicked our CEO.
Wow.
And I was one of the three people that got it. So I send a note. We have our own cybersecurity guy who's our IT, not our
Right.
product manager, but our own IT guy. So I sent it to him and said, this has to be a phishing attack. It asked for money, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, If Phil really needed money, who's our CEO, he would text me or call me. He wouldn't send me
Right.
an email. And then I said, and by the way, when you look at the email address, it's not
Right.
phil.bullinger@infinidat.com. But again, a lot of people don't look for that level of detail. So there's that.
Right.
So a lot of end user training, not just training the cyber team or the storage team or the IT guys, but training regular employees. How many people in finance or in HR would realize, wow, that this could be a fake? So if they don't know to look at the email
Right.
right address to see that, if they can't recognize doing certain things, we use Microsoft here, but we also use Google. And I got a Google email about my Exchange server. We don't use Exchange. We use Google Mail. We use
Wow.
right. We use the Office 365 with PowerPoint, of course, Word and Excel, but we use Google Mail. And it came to me saying my Exchange server. So I immediately
Ooh.
forwarded the security guy, say, hey, because by the way, they could be coming after our 365 and we have
Right.
tons of data, right? All our presentations we do. Clearly, we're using spreadsheets in the accounting side, Word files for legal, right? And other, so someone could have been hacking for that. So again, it's everywhere, and you just need to be ever vigilant across your enterprise to make sure that you're doing everything you can do to keep the cyber mafia away from what they're doing, between training your employees, training your IT team, all the technology sector around you, application server, storage network, your edge, obviously VPNs, all that. They're all coming under constant attack, and it's all heavily automated. So you need to be very
Right.
careful at what you do.
That's right. And by the way, I'm looking at your release here, and I see that you've got cyber detection for VMware too, which is great because to your point, they get in from anywhere. I mean, I remember that Target breach, and they came in through the HVAC or something like that. Through it was like an IoT penetration where they
Right.
actually they penetrated through the HVAC somehow into the system, and it's like, good grief, that is impressive. I mean, there is a very smart people who are doing bad things with cybercrime. I mean, I heard you mentioned that 9.3 trillion. I heard a number similar to that for the market cap of the bad guys, meaning the value of all the stuff they steal through ransomware and various tactics is like $9 trillion right now, which is a tremendous, or maybe it was like $2 or $3 trillion, is a shocking amount of money that is made doing bad things. And because these environments are so complex and they're always changing, that's why the threat remains constant because there are new ways they can get in. The Kubernetes, for example, is a whole new way of doing things in the last 5, 6 years. It's another place they can get in. But folks, don't touch that. That will be right back. We're talking to the Zogster on DM Radio. Stand by. We'll be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, back here on DM Radio, talking to the Zogs, Eric Herzog from Infinidat. He is a 10 or 20 time CMO of the year, something like that. Just amazing stuff. And he's got a fantastic shirt, folks. This Hawaiian shirt. I want that shirt. I think it's the color of sexy data, is what I'm looking at right there. But I want to talk to you about flash drives, solid state drives. And I remember, I'm old enough to remember, for example, when a guy named Hasso Plattner over there at SAP, he looked into the future and he realized, you know what? This flash memory, the solid state stuff is going to get to a point where it is economically feasible as the spinning disk costs go down too. There's going to be a point in the future where it makes sense to do everything in memory. That he was talking about memory as opposed to some of the stuff that you guys are doing. But I mean, he's a visionary right now. I don't think he saw Kubernetes coming, and I think SAP has had a little bit of trouble trying to refactor their technology to run like that. I think they're still having some issues with all that. But you folks have been on the solid state bandwagon for quite some time, and it is a massive change. I mean, you get the data so much faster. I remember my partner, Dr. Robin Bloor, once telling me about L1, L2 storage and the different speeds of these things. And you get right close to the processor and you can get it really fast. But there's all this data that you store. If you store it in solid state drives, you can get access to it a heck of a lot faster than if it's on spinning disk, right? You want to talk about that for a minute?
Sure. So what we do is we offer both. Our InfiniBox G4 is an all flash. It's our latest product, and it has DRAM. And we actually use a technology called neural cache, which is patented, which allows us to get most of the data access actually out of DRAM, which is even faster than flash. Then the
Hmm.
rest of the system is all flash. We also offer a hybrid array, which is the DRAM, a flash layer, and also hard drives. So we have both all flash and we have a hybrid array, which, by the way, includes partially flash and mostly hard drives. So those are based for different applications and workloads. Okay. We offer written SLAs, guaranteed performance. So we have a guarantee for the all flash. So we profile the applications and workloads with our customers. Our customers are predominantly the global Fortune 1000. So what we do is we profile those and they say, oh, okay, these apps need blah, blah, blah. Let's give you an InfiniBox all flash G4. And if they don't need that performance or they want to do backup, for example, then we'll sell them our regular InfiniBox hybrid, which has a lower cost point. So we provide both, and both of those have not only a performance guarantee, they're different, of course, the all flash having a faster guarantee than the hybrid. But even with our hybrid array, with our neural cache technology, we're actually able to come out of the DRAM, which is even faster than flash, about 95% of the time. So there are
Wow.
many use cases where we are actually going to be as fast or faster than someone else's all flash array because of that technology. And then we guarantee on both of them, our all flash and our hybrid, a 100% availability SLA. Again, we're dealing with the largest customers in the world, and they want to be 365 by 24 by 7. So they never want to go down. So we offer both performance guarantees, two different ones, one for the all flash, one for the hybrid. And then we offer an availability guarantee. And we even offer on both of them cyber guarantees. So we're very
Mm,
much into cybersecurity for the storage world. So we offer all that too. So Flash, however, has become ubiquitous for high performance in the enterprise.
right.
So we offer that. And then we offer the hybrid where, so think of it as tier one, tier zero, tier one workloads on all flash, and then tier two, tier three workloads or backup on the hybrid. And the hybrid is less expensive per terabyte, which is how people price it when they look at it from an end user perspective. So we have the higher performing, slightly higher priced all flash for those workloads. And then for other workloads, it's all about, there are a lot of people who are storage guys, and I've been doing it for 40 years. I'm almost 70 years old. I've done nothing but storage. I've worked at, 8 storage startups. I've also been with 5 Fortune 500 storage companies, including
Wow.
IBM twice when they bought, and one time they bought one of my startups. So, but it's not about the storage technology so much. It's how storage technology helps them with cybersecurity or how they help their application workloads and use cases. So, give you a story. I've been doing this for so long. I must have talked to 500 to 1,000 CIOs over the years.
Wow.
I've never met one that used to be a storage admin. So when you start using storage nerd terms like bandwidth, IOPS, or latency, which are all storage terms, most of them roll their eyes. But if you say, I could guarantee you 100% availability on that logistics SAP workload, wow, that they understand. Or if you say to them, well, I understand you've got this Oracle database. We understand it takes 5 hours. What if we could make that database do the exact same workload in half an hour? So at the CIO level, they don't understand storage. They know they have to have it. So our goal at infinidat and what we've been doing is we try to translate everything into applications, the workloads, or the use case.
Hmm.
And we wrap around that a layer of cyber storage security. And that's how we market our products to our end users. It doesn't mean when we're in talk to the storage admin, we don't know how to talk storage geek, because we absolutely do that. But at the upper levels, they don't. And when you're talking to the CISO, they definitely don't know storage. But if you said, how about if we could get the storage to be integrated into a comprehensive corporate cybersecurity strategy, that's when the CISO goes, really? I never thought about including storage in my cybersecurity strategy. It's like, well, yes, you can. And all flash enables all kinds of different applications, workloads, and use cases that make them faster than you would if you had a hard drive array, which there are still applications and workloads that still go on all hard drive arrays, like, so often video surveillance kind of stuff,
Sure.
deep archiving. If you don't want to go to tape, then some people literally put it on hard drive storage because it's cheap. So there are use cases for all hard drive arrays, although that's shrinking, hybrid arrays, and then all flash. And we make sure that we can meet those needs based on what is their application, their workload, and their use case. And at the high end, where they need the high performance, it's all about all flash. And that's our InfiniBox SSA, our all flash array.
Hmm. I've got this theory, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. I believe that, to paraphrase Mark Twain, the rumors of on-prem's demise have been greatly exaggerated. I don't think on-prem is going away anytime soon. And I actually think there are two major drivers right now for sustaining the on-prem worldview. One is called PII and security, personally identifiable information, and the other is called AI. I think that AI training models, for example, is going to be something that data centers are going to be doing more in the future. But what do you think about this long-standing theory that everything's going to the cloud? Because I don't think that's true at all. What are your thoughts?
So A, I agree with both of those applications. Second thing is the cost. So let's take an example. We offer a 100% availability guarantee. It's in writing, it's a service level agreement, and we don't charge anything for it. Okay, it just comes with our solutions. Okay, in the cloud, you're not going to get 100% availability guarantee. They just don't offer that.
Right.
Second thing is the hidden charges. I would argue that as much as we love cloud, and by the way, we have a piece of software called our Infuse OS, that's our operating system, Infuse OS Cloud Edition, that works with Amazon AWS and Microsoft Azure to give you that seamless hybrid cloud integration between on-prem and off-prem. But it is the ultimate razor and razor blades. When you go to Costco, the razor's $12. Then when you buy that box of blades at Costco, it's 50. And if you go to CVS or Walgreens or some regular, pharmacy, it's even more than $50. So it's razor and razor blades. That is exactly what cloud storage has become.
Hmm.
There's hidden charges for availability. The more availability you want, which is measured by the nines. And usually for cloud storage, it's 3 nines to start. Eric Kavanaugh, you like 5 nines? We got to charge for that. 6 nines, we
Right.
got to charge for that. 7 nines, we can't deliver that even, or 100, we can't do that. Same thing for performance. And the biggest hidden fee for highly transactional workloads, every time you move the data in and out, there's a networking fee, ingress
Hmm.
and egress networking fees. So when
Right.
you look at highly transactional workloads and add that up with a spreadsheet, you can see that using cloud storage, even though the storage part at only 3 nines of availability and low performance is cheap, as you add all the extras and then you add the networking fees, it ends up being exorbitant. And I do think one other thing is people now, with all of the cyber attacks and the cost of cyber attacks, are thinking that certain data is fine in the cloud. Disaster recovery copies. In case there's an earthquake, I'm coming to you, as you know, from Silicon Valley. There's tornadoes, there's hurricanes. And by the way, as you probably know well, other than human beings, the most common form of data loss still is fire.
Hmm.
So you having a duplicate copy that's out in the cloud, so you could do recovery. Recovery would be slower than having it in another data center, but still you can recover. The other is backup use cases. When you talk to the storage analyst community, they would tell you the top 4 use cases for hybrid cloud storage are: 1, disaster recovery and business continuity; backup; test and dev. So that
Hmm.
you develop that Oracle app or that SAP app, you do it in the cloud. If you're with us, like our Infuse OS Cloud Edition, that's literally our operating system sitting in Amazon or Microsoft. So when you do it, when you do the testing, you're testing as if you were on an on-prem InfiniBox, right?
Hmm.
Because you're testing on the exact same operating system. And what matters is store. All the storage systems are basically running a storage OS.
Hmm.
They all call it different things, but it is a storage operating system. And all that does is manage the storage. Storage is very complex on what it does, how it deals with things. If you don't do the data right, you lose the data, right? That costs people their jobs. So you have to be very, very careful. That storage operating system, we can put ours out in the cloud, gives you that seamless integration back and forth. So that's an important capability. But the security angle is why some people are what's known as repatriating of data.
Right.
Performance is the other reason you can't get the performance in the cloud for
Right.
high performance workloads.
That's right.
The 2 applications you mentioned, right? AI being one. That's another reason when you're doing the learning modules, you want to do it as fast as you can. You might want to do that on-prem. So there are a lot of reasons. And we believe that the world is really going to be a hybrid cloud world. It's not
Yes.
going to be all on-prem. That's old school. That ain't happening. It's not
Right.
going to be all cloud either. And data is going to go back and forth. And in fact, there is a recognition by the cloud providers. Amazon and Microsoft both have elements of their storage that sit on-prem all of a sudden. So why
Wow.
would they put storage solutions on-prem if they didn't realize,
Interesting.
I guess certain workloads probably still belong on-prem?
Right. Well, and what do you think about apparently now Google and Amazon? have both ridded themselves of these egress fees because that was the big catch for a long time. I used to joke it's like Hotel California. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. Meaning, like, yeah, you can leave, but you're going to pay a lot of money on these egress fees. And they've both gotten rid of those. And I guess Microsoft is still kind of hanging on there. What are your thoughts on that? Does that play into the storyline about recognizing, hey, guess what? Number one, people want choice, right? No one likes to be locked in on any vendor deal at all. But storage, I mean, when you buy storage, that's physical hardware you're putting in your environment, right? But they realize, I think, that many companies want to be able to port from the cloud on-prem, sometimes from on-prem to the cloud, obviously, too. But what are your thoughts about that change in policy from these very big vendors?
I think what they're trying to do is recognize that the world is not an all public cloud world. They're
Right.
recognizing that the world is hybrid. And in fact, with our Infuse OS Cloud Edition, we can even move data without going back on prem. We could move data from our Infuse OS in Amazon to our Infuse OS in Microsoft.
Oh, interesting. Pure
So
Storage has something like this too. And I remember when I was talking to them about it, I was like, it sounds like an operating system for data. And they're like,
it is
yeah. So it's the same kind of thing, right? I mean, you got your own OS that is keeping track of which data is here, because the other thing you want to be able to do is move it from cold storage to hot, or from hot to warm to cold, or whatever. I mean, that all makes a big difference and saves you money and keeps those SLAs intact, right? Being able to move it from cold to hot storage pretty fluidly, right?
right. Well, and we support both of those big giant cloud providers for a couple reasons. A number of big Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies, they don't use one cloud provider, they use multiple cloud providers. So
Right.
we want to make sure those are the two biggest clouds. We don't support Google. We're looking at that, but right now we absolutely support. And when you look at the biggest clouds by revenue, it's in the enterprise, it's Google, it's Amazon, Microsoft, then Google and IBM Cloud. So we did the
Right.
first two biggest first. We're looking at the others. We have had a couple people suggest it. But we're supporting the two biggest. So many people want multiple clouds for a lot of reasons. You said they don't want vendor lock-in. Okay. They may do it geographically. Maybe, because our customers are mostly global enterprises, they may use Azure for their European operations and use AWS for their Americas operations. So we need to
Right.
make sure we support both of those for that reason as well. And I do think, again, this egress fee issue is the recognition that it's not going to be 100% public cloud, that it's going to be a hybrid cloud world. We would argue a hybrid multi-cloud world, because that way we support,
Right.
support different clouds.
That's
And
right.
that some data is going to sit in the cloud. And there's several use cases that we talked about, such as backup, such as disaster recovery and business continuity, test and dev, which is ideal for the cloud.
Hmm.
Okay, but there's other workloads, the highest performance Oracle, SAP, Mongo, Cassandra databases, things that are controlling the logistics of a manufacturer, certainly finance data, might not be as well served by being out in the cloud as more well served by being on-prem. So we believe it's going to be hybrid multi-cloud. It started with all on-prem, then everyone went wild and said everything's going to the cloud. And now you
Right.
see more of this even balance, and that's what we think it's going to be.
Yeah, and quite frankly, and our next segment break is coming up here, but I think companies like yourselves are enabling that, right? Because hybrid cloud, I think, is absolutely the future, but you do want to have this data operating system, which it's a separation of concerns, right? You want to be focused on the data. Where is the data now? Where does it need to go? All that stuff that goes through the data OS, and if you have that nailed down, that opens up all kinds of other doors. We'll be right back, folks. You're listening to DM Radio. All right, folks, back here on DM Radio, talking to the Zogs, man. I'm kind of disappointed I didn't talk to you earlier, Eric. So you've been around for so long and been in this business for so long, and you're right that a lot of times storage doesn't get the respect that it deserves. Quite frankly, I mean, storage is the backbone of the information economy, and to optimize on that level, to optimize what you're storing for how much money, what kind of workload you have, it's getting very granular these days, and it really kind of has to, right? You can't have this one size fits all approach because every company is different and the workloads are changing dramatically. I mentioned AI. I do want to talk about some of that stuff. And I asked you before the show if you knew Hammerspace, and you said, "Oh yeah, yeah, I'm quoted in their press releases, and we know those guys. We're partners." I'm very, very impressed with what they've done, and we just did a show recently on them, how they did something that I've never seen anyone else do. I'm curious to hear your take on this. When I was talking to David Flynn, their CEO, And I realized what they'd done. I said, "You have done something that I talked about 20 freaking well, actually 16 years ago. I went to an HPC, a high performance computing show in Austin, and I looked around. I'm in the data warehousing world since like 2001, I guess is when I first got into that space. And I'm looking around and I've never seen these worlds talk to each other. I'm like, why don't you guys talk to each other? You're doing data, they're doing HPC. Like this is a match made in heaven. And the folks from Hammer Space have done that. They took a page out of the HPC world by separating the metadata layer and basically enabling this unified namespace for data where you can have data far flung all over creation, on-prem, in all sorts of different data stores in the cloud. Who cares? They don't care because they'll ingest all of that and then represent as if they are just a file system. And to me, I'm like, that can solve so many problems because there are so many workarounds that we've come up with to move data here, to move data there. That I mean, I talk a lot about the ETL side of things, and he goes, "Well, that's true. That's the structured data, but also all the unstructured data, the video, all this stuff." I mean, there's this huge cost to these things, and there's an opportunity cost to not optimizing that world. And what I see when I put infinidat together with Hammer Space, you guys solve all kinds of problems now out of the box, and that really it opens up the potential to leverage data. This is our July 4th show, so you're liberating data. It's free, it's independent now. It can do what it wants, right? And that's going to be incredibly important because I think that eventually most companies, big companies, are going to have their own, probably a small language model. They're going to deploy it in their data center and they're going to train it on all their corporate data, their ERP systems, their CRM, their Salesforce, their customer support tickets, their machine data, all that stuff. I think this is going to happen. I don't know exactly when, but the combination is what makes real magic happen. Talk about what you guys do with them and why it's such a big deal.
Sure. So we are a technical alliance partner of Hammerspace, and they're one with us. We share mutual accounts where they're running Hammerspace sitting on top of our storage underneath. So think of us as that rock solid enterprise storage foundation, and they're sitting above us as that distributed file system level that David talked to you about. So we have several customers. We've got one who's got 6 petabytes of our storage with Hammerspace on top, another customer with 10 petabytes. We're talking to other customers that are even larger. Basically, our storage gives them that 100% availability at the storage level. Cyber resilience and cyber recovery technology in case there's something that happens at the storage layer underneath the global file system. High performance, which we guarantee in writing, and our 100% availability. So that's the foundational element. And they sit above us with that globally distributed file system. And that means you can have their globally distributed file system, and you could have InfiniBoxes at data center A, InfiniBoxes at data center B, InfiniBoxes at data center C, all behaving in that single global namespace, leveraging Hammerspace, but then we provide that rock solid foundation
Right.
underneath. We also have a number of common channel partners who take us out, us and them out to go talk to end users. But we have several mutual customers right now with petabytes and petabytes of storage, with them on top and us, the foundational storage element beneath their globally distributed file system on top.
Yeah, that's just amazing stuff. I mean, really, it opens the doors because let's face it, AI workloads are pretty intense. Training these models is a very intense thing. We're still learning lessons, and we're at the very beginning of this journey, quite frankly, as I look at it. But it's going to be greatly enabled by partnerships like what you just mentioned, Infinidat and Hammerspace together. That's a pretty impressive one-two punch, and it achieves what do they call it? The Gestalt, right? The German concept, the sum is greater than the whole of its parts, right? When you bring all this stuff together, amazing things can happen because it frees up the opportunity to do interesting things, right? There's this opportunity cost of having an old world mindset about data and data storage and backup and just viewing it as as a sort of must have that we don't really want to talk about. You have to talk about it and get into the weeds of this stuff to realize what's possible. And, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on the future of AI. I mean, I wrote an article just the other day saying that really these foundational models, the best analogies, they're almost like new operating systems for business. But what do you think about that idea?
So we support AI workloads. We have customers who use us for AI where they are, you mentioned, for example, ERP systems that they're training. Well, that sits on databases we're very strong. We provide both file-based storage and block-based storage in a single solution. So we have file storage so they can leverage it on the file side. They can also leverage it on the block side with things like databases. So like their ERP system, which you mentioned before. So we make sure that we can support those workloads on their side. Then we leverage AI. We have a technology known as Infiniverse, and this leverages the telemetry data about the storage. So the users for that would be our technical advisors. We provide one for every account, and they're not about tech support. They're about optimizing applications and workloads. Our channel partners who work with our end users, and of course, the IT teams inside of our end user customers. So our Infiniverse is an infrastructure consumption platform. It's a single control plane that everyone can use, and it gathers all kinds of telemetry data, capacity they're using, what they're doing with their snapshots,
Mm.
performance information, etc. And then you could use Infiniverse, and we do proactive AI analytics. So for example, if you went to Infiniverse and you had your Infinibox all flash #1, you go in and look, and it can tell you that you're starting to run up against the maximum capacity. And it
Mm.
does predictive analytics based on the telemetry data. Those predictive analytics, of course, use AI technology. So we, if you will, AI inside of the storage,
Mm-hmm.
things like our Infiniverse. And then we make sure we can support AI workloads with our capability of supporting incredibly fast block data, things like an Oracle or SAP database that they're training to handle things like ERP, supply chain logistics, their finance, right? And then also file-based data. So that's what we do, support the AI workloads and then leverage AI to get some of this analytic data and be able to leverage it with predictive analytics for what's going on
Right.
inside the actual storage that we sell.
Yeah, that's just fascinating stuff, man. That's very, very cool. And let me ask you, we got a couple minutes left here. NVMe and these new NVMe interfaces. I see you're also supporting that. Can you talk about why that's a big deal and maybe what it means for you and what you're doing at infinidat?
Sure. So with the NVMe, it's a faster protocol. So the storage itself can move data back and forth either from the DRAM, which is on the server side, okay,
Hmm.
or between the storage itself. So the NVMe is a faster protocol than the SAS and the SAS SATA protocols, which are the older storage protocols. So it's very much a storagey thing and a server thing. NVMe is in all the servers these days as well, so that the CPUs can interface to higher performance storage in a faster way. Think of it as taking a 3-lane highway and making it 6 lanes and changing the speed from 55 miles an hour to 75 miles an hour. So A,
Wow.
you got more capability, more physical space to go back and forth, and you just raise the speed limit. So that's what NVMe does, both in the server side of the world and in the storage side of the world.
Yeah, it's a big deal. It's a company called Ocient. Have you come across those guys?
Haven't talked to them lately, but I know who they are. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So they really leveraged the NVMe and they just spent several years building a foundation to be able to really harness the power of that stuff so they can soak in like trillions of records. I mean, literally trillions of records. But that's the kind of thing that happens. And see, I love talking to hardware folks because first of all, there's a long process from design through production through sales and so forth. And you really have to kind of think in terms of, multi-year windows and to see where things are going. But that's obviously something you guys have done. We got about 45 seconds here. Closing thoughts from the Zogs on the future of storage.
Storage is critical. And whether you're a CIO on the regular IT side or the CISO on the security side, don't leave storage out of the equation, whether it's the
Right.
security you need or whether it's your applications and workloads. Storage is critical to that. And most importantly, the bulk of the Fortune 1000 enterprise data is sitting on your enterprise storage. So make sure you think about it and realize what you need to do to optimize applications, workloads, and use cases while doing it securely. That's what
That's
enterprise storage can do for you.
look this guy up, Zoggin Store, Zoginstor. That's his Twitter handle. He's still on Twitter. I'm on Twitter. I love X. I know it's a little bit different, but they're doing amazing things. Well, folks, look these gentlemen up online. Infinidat. We'll be talking to the Zogster. Thank you so much for your time today. You've been listening to DM Radio.